Hello, I'm Warren Etheredge of the Warren Report, and tonight members of the Warren Report and you are going to get a little sneak inside preview of the movie The Lookout by writer-director Scott Frank, who previously wrote the films Get Shorty and Out of Sight. After the movie, you're going to be part of an exclusive discussion with Scott Frank and two of the stars of the film, Matthew Goode from Match Point, and also the wonderful Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who starred in Brick and Third Rock from the Sun. So let's go inside, take a look, and meet the filmmakers. There are many reasons I could cite for loving the movie, but there are three here tonight. The writer-director, Scott Frank, the man who gave us Get Shorty, Out of Sight, other great movies. Scott Frank, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And our two stars. He ain't American, apparently, but he is lovely and a fantastic actor, Matthew Goode from Match Point. Thank you, sir. And returning champion, 4 years later, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Thank you, sir.
Let's start at the end. Can't tell a story if you don't know where it's going. Now that's the end. Now what happened before that?
Once upon a time, I had the perfect life. Now I have to write everything down just to make it through the day.
Any problems this week?
Nope.
Crying? Raging?
Nope.
Taking your meds?
I want you to write down bank extra clean in your little notebook.
That's Chris Pratt.
My friend would like to buy you a drink.
Gary Spargo? We know each other. I was in your sister's class.
I heard what happened to you. And everyone was talking about how you woke up this other guy.
Were you with a lady tonight? Where'd you meet her?
Gary introduced me to her.
Toast family, right?
What's this?
Yes, this is a project I've been working on.
Why are you taking pictures of a bunch of banks?
Because I'm gonna rob one of them.
What is this?
You know, I need your help.
You want me to rob the bank?
Don't you want your old life back?
You can't give that to me.
I was 3 years ahead of you, and I looked up to you. I'm gonna help you.
How?
Whoever has the money has the power. On the night, your job will be the most important job of all. You're the lookout.
But I can't do this.
Go in there, do your job, and shut your mouth. Where's the money?
Start at the end, work backwards. What are you doing here?
I have the money, I have the power.
What inspired you to write this?
A couple things. I had a friend of mine who was in a kind of horrific accident, or he was a bystander on the side of the road at an intersection. He was a med student and very avid cyclist and rock climber. And so he was standing at this intersection with his bicycle, and there was a priest in a church van who was smoking and dropped his cigarette. And he bent down to pick up his cigarette and ran the red light and hit another car in the intersection, and the two cars bounced off each other, and one of those cars skidded across the intersection and pinned this guy to where he was standing right to the light post. And he had frontal lobe injuries and injuries behind his head, and he went into a coma for, I think it was 7.5 weeks. And he woke up from that coma a completely different human being, uninterested in studying medicine, no sense of humor anymore. He had to relearn how to walk. He had to relearn how to hold a fork. He wore a diaper for about 4 months. He was just a totally different person. And the hard thing for him, among other things, among the symptoms that he suffered, he had memory issues, he had sequencing issues. He'd frequently put on his shoes and then forget a sock. He couldn't remember the names of things. He'd try and ask you for a pair of scissors, and I have those metal things that cut. you know, just names would be gone. But the hardest part for him, and the thing that I kept thinking about, was he was a new person, and we spend our lives thinking about our identity and who we are every day. And then one day you wake up and you're not that person anymore, and you have to meet this entirely new person that's you, and you also are well aware of who you were. And it was a nightmare for him, and I thought that would be a great character. And while I was thinking about that guy and trying to figure out where to put him in a story, I'd been reading a lot about these little rural farm towns in Iowa and Nebraska mostly, and some in Kansas, where they would, for a couple weeks a year, you know, normally a little bank in those towns. They're empty towns, couple hundred people, but there are maybe, you know, 50 or 60 very large farms in the surrounding area. And normally during the week, these banks would have $900 in the vault, you know, the hardware store and the cafe, and that would be about it. And then twice a year, they would get all this USDA money or this money from Cargill or some of the other big agribusinesses. And it could amount to, in the millions, the low millions of dollars. And I thought, well, there's an interesting story there. And these two stories just gradually over the years became one.
What's this? This is a project I've been working on for a great many months. It's probably not ready for anyone to see yet, but such is life.
It's all banks?
Mm-hmm. That's right, Chris. They're all banks.
Why are you taking pictures of a bunch of banks?
Because I'm gonna rob one of them. Well, we're gonna rob one of them. Some nice little farm bank in the ass end of nowhere where they get all that winter harvest cash. You know what I'm talking about?
The most productive thing I did was hanging out with people that had been through similar things. You know, who were all different. None of them were exactly like this character, but you take different things from different people and you make an individual. And that's kind of what I came to, was that even though they all had this category in common, they had all suffered traumatic brain injuries, once I was actually hanging out with them, they just were people that I was hanging out with. And that's what I wanted to make Chris like.